Hello! Hey! Have you guys had fun this week? Are you ready for some more fun? Yes! That is it. I'm going to leave YouTube over here. And then I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to take a 360 photo of you because you look gorgeous. Everyone, smile. Another one, yes! Big smiles, woo! Cool, okay. My mom's going to love that. Okay, great. This is going to be an interesting 30 minutes because they gave me a clicker and I have my notes on this machine. So I'm gonna dual wield the clicker and my notes. Okay, so today I'm going to give a talk that I've never given in English before. Let's go. Wait, something happened. Loud. Yes. Woo! We can do that louder next time. Yes. Okay. So this talk is called The Bullshit Hunt. And it'll be a very honest talk about a few things that I think we should all be on the lookout for when we're discussing design and we're discussing product development. And my name is Michael. And before we start hunting, I think it's important that you know a little bit more about me because it's hard for you to believe me if I don't show you some credentials. So first of all, my Twitter handle is FLARUP, that's my last name. So if I say anything clever up here, or if you take some wonderful pictures of me, be sure to tweet them. I will definitely retweet you. And that's also where you can reach me after this talk. If you have questions, comments, anything. Cool. Whoops. So I've got a lot of different roles today, but fundamentally, I'd say I'm a designer. And I run a couple of companies and initiatives. Whoa, this clicker is killing me. OK. One is Pixel Resort, where I've been freelancing for the past 10 years. And I do conferences and events and generally sort of try to strengthen the local design community in Denmark. I'm from Copenhagen. And sometimes I am invited to speak at conferences like this one about the many fun things that I get to do. And my biggest passion is really trying to inspire other people to make things. So I say yes to most of those opportunities. And I've co-founded a product company called ROBOCAT, product studio. And it's been 7 fantastic years. Whoops. This is going to happen a lot, I can tell. Let's go back. It's been some amazing years where I've gotten to build a team, I've gotten to collaborate with some amazing people, and just been on some amazing adventures. We've done some pretty unique apps that's been talked about around the world and used by millions of people. I got a few short video clips here. Cool. Okay. So and through many of these apps, I've grown as an interface designer and a product designer, and I've been involved in almost every aspect of the creative work, from idea to implementation. Done lots of stuff like that. So we've built some award-winning games. Can't skip that one. And I've worked on everything from game design to illustration, art direction, collaborated with some amazingly cool people, and made some things that 80s child that I really am really loves.
This is where you fight to become a legend. Better gear up, because once you take off, there ain't no turning back.
Fun stuff like that. Made a lot of different games. Not all of them, a great success. Like this pirate game that was way too hard. So we've designed some hardware. And, yep. Thank you, clicker. OK, are you still out there? Yeah. OK, we've designed hardware. And we launched a Kickstarter campaign for a little electronic thermometer for smartphones. and they look like that. And that was a fun adventure. We got like 10 times the amount of funding that we asked for. We did a lot of behind-the-scenes video, and I want to show you just a little bit of that.
Overcoming production obstacles and inventing new processes. Utilizing the extended funding to make sweeping changes to our product. Suffering delays and frustrations of iterative prototyping. Establishing relationships with overseas facilities. Plowing through hundreds of samples for the right finish. Solving deeply complex software issues. Understanding shipping structures. Obsessing over packaging solutions. And logistically balancing a first production run of 12,000 units to 77 countries.
Okay, that's enough of that. That's a different talk, really fun. Last year, we helped a non-profit organization called Be My Eyes design and launch their video conversation app to help blind people. Just a little bit of video.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
Amazing project. They got worldwide coverage and 300,000 sign-ups in 7 days. So we've built a lot of crazy stuff, right? We've made some groundbreaking apps for the new Apple TV. We don't have to look at that. That's for Denmark. But we just started a new company actually that focuses entirely on games and gamification and entertainment design. And we're called Northplay. This is actually the first time I'm talking publicly about this, so let's call this an announcement. Right now, we're working on something really, really fun, which is kind of like this game about trains. I have a 2-year-old son. He loves trains. We're making a game about trains. And you can follow the development on YouTube. We're trying to do like some co-creation stuff. Really, really fun stuff. Look at them go. OK, so last thing you need to know about me before we start talking with like harsher words is that one of my great passions is making app icons. That's kind of like my thing. I really love making app icons. 2 days ago, I gave a talk just about app icons. It was 40 minutes long, 10 minutes longer than this talk. So this is the first app that we did for ROBOCAT. It was like this weather app called Outside. And I find it so amazing that everything that app came to be for us and for all the people that used it can be represented by that one picture. I think that's amazing. And I think making app icons, that is really, truly one of my great passions. To me, like iconists are kind of like the jewelers of icon design. We get to craft these tiny little gems, these concentrated pieces of design, and you get to tell this little story in this wonderfully restricted canvas. And I think we skipped a few. Just like sometimes you get to do like these really painterly things, like these things, and sometimes you get to really consider every little gradient, every little shape, do the minimalistic walk, right? And where symbolism is key, and where you try to layer meaning into the pixels. And sometimes I even try to mix both simplicity and tactility, even though that's a no-no these days, where everything is flat. And sometimes we just play around with it for fun. We don't need to talk about that one. And sometimes I make icons just for fun, just because I think it's fun to play around with the restrictions, like these icons here that I made for this project called App Icon Wars. And just playing around with rendering, doing fun stuff in Photoshop. So in short, I love making icons. And what I'm trying to say is that I've worked on a lot of products, both of my own and for clients around the world. I sat down and tried to do the numbers. And it's probably around 200 apps reaching more than 50 million users. Not all of them have been successes, mind you, like failures and successes, and we've learned a lot. I love making products. I love making great products, right? But, even though all these things happen, you got to be really careful with this thing. There. I'm telling you all this because despite of all that, I've sat in so many meeting rooms and listened to a lot of bullshit. Design is many things, and there are a lot of people practicing design and development, and it's a minefield of bullshit. I'm sure you've all encountered bullshit in the design and development process, right? I mean, it's all around us, and there's simply so many misconceptions, so many misunderstandings around terms and processes. There's no other industry where you really need to have a fine-tuned bullshit radar on all the time. So there's so much hot air on all sides of the table that it can actually be really hard to buy or sell design and development services. And you know what? I think that's a shame, because design is fantastic. It's the difference between like a bad and a great product. So it must be everyone's responsibility to hunt some of this bullshit. To say stop when we hear it in the meeting rooms, when we sit in front of someone who's repeating some bullshit. So to be critical of all that nonsense. And look, usually, and you can look this up on the internet, I usually give these very positive and inspiring talks that makes people want to start things and aims to fill people with the enthusiasm about the creative process. But today, and with the risk of sounding like an angry old man, I've chosen like a few things that I'd like to call bullshit on. It's 3 things that will give us sort of the opportunity to talk about some bigger issues. The things that I've chosen has a lot to do with design and mobile applications and the development of those, because that's what I do every day. But even though you might not be involved in those things, don't fall asleep, because I still think that there'll be some truths in there. Are you guys ready? Yeah. Let's turn that volume all the way up and let the hunt begin. Found some bullshit. Okay. Any UXers in here? Can I get some light in the audience? Because I might be about to offend some people. Okay, possibly thank you, there was a few hands. I might be offending like a whole segment of the design industry here. UX is a bullshit and dangerous term. It's being grossly misused across the world. And that's bold words. And don't rage quit yet, also not for the people watching this on the live stream. Stay with me as I try to explain those bold words. Great. UX, as you all know, right? It stands for user experience. And every time someone sits next to me in a meeting and talks about how they need to buy some UX or get a UX specialist, I get heat flashes and my knuckles, they turn white. So, they say stuff like, we need a UX specialist. And what they actually mean is, only a few on the team really needs to understand the product. Look, there is obviously nothing wrong with the term user experience, right? The user experience is a great thing to talk about. The problem arises when it becomes a step in a process, the responsibility of a single person or a few people. The user experience shouldn't be just one person's domain. Everyone on the entire team, from the developer to the designer to the project manager to the goddamn client, needs to be on the ball when it comes to user experience. And the problem is compounded because UX is a term that is interpreted widely different. Ask people around after this. Go and ask some people, what is UX and when do you apply it in the process? You will get 5 different answers, right? Is it wireframes? Like, to a lot of people, it means wireframes. UX is wireframes, right? How the product is structured and how it flows. There's thousands of people in the world right now with UX designer as the job title, and they spent a lot of time in OmniGraffle, drawing lines, basically. It's not wireframes, right? I mean, obviously, the cohesiveness and overall structure of an app is super important. It's an important part of how the user experiences a product, but UX can't possibly only be related to low-fidelity prototypes, right? Okay, wait, great, I got it now, right? It's UI, right? UX is UI. Like, to a lot of people, they think that the bulk of UX has to do with the user interface. They're wrong. Okay, wait, okay, I got it. Let's ask the internet. The internet knows everything. If you Google UX, you'll find some very helpful diagrams like this one trying to explain, what UX is. I love this one. This is my favorite one. In this case, it's obviously the intersection between prototyping, business analysis, and visual design development, whatever that is. Do you know what this is? Do you know what it is? It's bullshit. It's bullshit. That's what it is. Thank you. Someone in the audience were like, we need to see that one. Great. That's a good sound. Okay, fantastic. So, why is it bullshit though, right? So UX is shit because the term is confusing. And it means something different to many different people. People simply don't know what they're talking about when they're buying and selling it. And around a confusion like that drops a lot of bullshit. Like a whole army of people calling themselves UXers, right? When they really should be calling themselves designers. Just designers. If you make something, you're designing something, right? You're designing. There's no need to proliferate the already countless of useless job titles that we all have. I've had them myself. You know, they're all explaining that simple thing. You're a designer. Great. UX is shit because it's dangerous to assign responsibility of the user experience to a single person. Everyone on the team should work with the user experience. User experience is everything. It's not something you do before you design. It's not some defined step in the process of making things. The output of every single person involved in making the thing is impacting the user experience. And you know what happens when you delegate responsibility like that in a team? It often means that the rest of the team involved, they don't think much about it because, you know, someone else is in charge of the user experience. Now I can just take care of my own little thing here. You know, and that is not how you make good products. That is actually pretty much the recipe on how you make mediocre products. So user experience is not a point in the process. It's not a checklist item to be checked off. It is the goddamn whole point of making something. You know, so let's stop throwing the term around so casually. Make sure that everyone knows what you're talking about and make sure that it follows the whole process. And stop calling yourself UXers, right? I mean, you're designers, for crying out loud. Like, you know what, I'm gonna try something. You know, let's do a Mike Montieri on this. So when I say a job title, you know, we need to get these jackets off for this thing. When I say a job title, you say, fuck that, I'm a designer. Can we get some light on them? Are you guys ready? UXer. Fuck that, I'm a designer. We'll try again. UX designer. That's good. We're continuing down the list. UX specialist. Fuck that, I'm a designer. UX design consultant. Fuck that, I'm a designer, right? This is gonna be good. Senior experience architect. Fuck that, I'm a designer, right? Chief Officer Experience Evangelist. Fuck that, I'm a designer. There's so many of these things out there. You get it now, right? Good. Let's quickly move on. There's obviously a lot of other bullshit out there. Let's see. Ugly for some of the developers out there. Great. So I hear things like we can build a cheaper cross-platform solution, and what they're really saying is, you know, quality, user experience, and maintenance isn't really very important. It has to be easy for us, and it needs to be cheap. So I want to just kind of clarify, because, you know, cross-platform today means a lot of different things. We're working in Unity. It cross-platforms perfectly. The sort of bullshit that I'm after here is the type of bullshit where you want to make an iOS and an Android app, and you use a third party like PhoneGap or something else that magically spits out code that works on both platforms, right? You know, what could possibly go wrong? Okay, so non-native is shit because it doesn't feel right. I can instantly spot when an app isn't native. Buttons react slightly slower, often sizes and conventions in the interface and elements are all wrong. The whole thing just feels off. Like, you can simply feel that it's suboptimal in comparison to an app written with the right tools, tailored for the platform, right? So I know that these things, I can put words to them, but the user don't know these things. To them, the app is just bad, and that's really bad for you. So non-native, Android and iOS are still very different platforms. Interface paradigms, visual style, and the way things are done are just different. So when you make one code base and you deploy it for multiple platforms, those specific platform-specific thoughtfulness that often goes out the window. You're simply not respecting the user on that individual platform, and you're serving up the same plain soup to both. So your users, they chose like one platform for a reason, and if you're disregarding that choice by serving up interface convention for from iOS to an Android device, for example, or vice versa, you're essentially giving the users the middle finger for not caring about their choice. I think something's wrong with that. Also, when you write one code base in a third-party system, which compiles some codes, which runs on individual platforms, there's a lot of magic going on, right? You're now very dependent on this third party instead of the tools that Google and Apple gives you, which are closer to the hardware. So, I've seen it again and again. Maintenance on these types of cross-platform solutions, they suck. You're super dependent on that third party. Okay, so last but not least, it is my position that it's simply wrong. It's a wrong priority. It prioritizes price and ease of use, or ease for the developer, over the quality and the experience of using the product and the maintenance. So if you don't have a budget to build an app that is native on the platforms you want to hit, then start somewhere and work from there. Don't build 2 or more mediocre products, right? Just build one good product. Okay, more bullshit. Whoops. We want to see that app. Whoop. One of my ultimate pet peeves. Okay, design as an afterthought, right? So I have countless of times received an email, you might have as well, right? Sat in a meeting room and someone says something along the line of, we have an app, can you make some design for it? And what that actually means is, we have completely misunderstood what design is. Can't you just make something pretty? Yeah, thank you. You know what? Design is a lot of things. Design solves problems. Design creates experiences, and design is how it works. But design is not a coat of paint that you put on afterwards. Design as an afterthought is shit because, it's not just when the design is an afterthought and not part of the whole process. Design is kind of downgraded to skinning an existing product. It's this conception that design is purely aesthetic. Like, it's a tool that's added to the last part of the process, and it's just wrong. It couldn't be further from the truth, right? It's completely reverse thinking to introduce design late in the process, because design should be the tool that you use to find out how you solve whatever your product does. So design isn't just how it looks, but also how it works, right? Those two things should very much be connected. If design isn't there from the start, way back from the conceptual stage, the process is guided by far more blind principles, like development, like can we do this, or business, how does it serve us to do this, right? Design is super important. Okay. So that was a few of the things that I get really crazy over listening to in the meeting room. Misconceptions, hot air, wrong priorities, and a lack of understanding behind, what makes a great product. And how do we avoid this, right? This would be a pretty at least we have the fart sounds. So this would be a pretty shitty talk if I at least didn't try to answer how we avoid bullshit, right? Okay. So it's incredible that we even have to talk about this, but the best way that you can work against bullshit is to prioritize good craftsmanship. So if you're on the side of the table that sells design and development, which I sense that many of you guys are, then choose good solutions, right? Based on factual principles, and make sure that you educate the client or the people that you're collaborating with why execution is worth everything. And if you're on the other side of the table and you need to buy design and development, then be critical. Choose your collaborators from real criteria. Look at what solutions they've made for other people, and don't just go to their self-indulgent case studies. We all have them on our websites, right? Try the products, download the actual app. Does it feel good, right? Is it a good experience? Great. So tune expectations. Do a spec. For the love of God, do a spec. What type of work needs doing? How is it delivered? If you're selling design development, then make sure that you're honest about your process. Way too many clever salesman type people, they sell solutions that they don't truly understand because they're not the ones actually doing the work, which means that they can't tune expectations with the client. And that leads to a whole lot of bullshit. And the same goes if you're the client. You want to explain what you expect of your partners, and so they can have an opportunity to tell you how much of that stuff can actually be done in reality, right? So clarification of concepts, right? We just talked about with the UXers. Be sure that you understand each other. Ask what the other party means when that person is across the room and saying, we need some UX here. Great. So the right people. You want to create an environment around you and your processes where bullshit it's not allowed. It's not allowed to thrive. And this is done best by choosing people at meetings very carefully. People who actually do the work they're talking about is a lot less likely to spread bullshit. Be honest, right? If you're selling design and development, then cut back on the hot air, the buzzwords, all the things that are kind of hard to understand, and tell it straight. It isn't rocket science, right? We're making things and it's awesome. Explain exactly what the client can expect and how your process works. The less time you spend on all that fluff, the more time you can spend on actually executing on the product. At the end of the day, great execution speaks for itself. Is the product made with love, with respect for the platform and for the users? Did you spend time on both the details and the big picture? Bullshit occurs when people, they don't really know what they're talking about, right? And it's not necessarily evil. Bullshit doesn't have to be evil. People do it in good intention. But it is therefore poison to bullshit when someone or something is actually being executed on. Like the hot air, it disappears when people that sits around the table has experience with building things and when words actually turn into action. Proper execution is like the anti-bullshit. Okay, so design is amazing, and it can be a wonderful adventure to make products. But if everyone, I feel like it's everyone's responsibility to keep the meeting rooms free of bullshit. It's your responsibility too. When you go out after this conference and you sit in those meeting rooms, call bullshit. If someone says something that's wrong, something that's misunderstood, and no matter which side of the table you're on, ask if something seems unclear or undefined. And the more often we get to repeat this stuff, bullshit, the more power it gets, and the more it keeps us from focusing on what's really important in the process. So bullshit isn't just annoying, right? It costs time, it costs money, and in many cases, it leads to bad products. So let's do a common effort to prioritize good craftsmanship. Let's prioritize honesty. Let's prioritize transparency. Let's be critical and not just repeat, things that are said to us when you're talking about these terms and these processes. I promise you, it will pay off for both you guys and your users. Good hunting.